Today, I want to talk about a couple of things surrounding AI. First being the data centers that are going up, and if you're not aware, there's been quite a bit of anger at data centers for AI companies, because what they essentially have been doing is going into communities and then forcing those communities to subsidize their energy costs. So the average citizen is paying a higher electricity bill because of the data center, which is using an insane amount of electricity. And then the second main thing I want to cover is OpenAI and Sam Altman kind of walking back their stance that they had originally taken, in that the most recent release of ChatGPT kind of chilled out the buddy-buddiness of the system, and instead what it did was it just was kind of more cold, hard, here's your facts, and that's about it, right? It wasn't trying to foster a relationship with you, which obviously would be good for OpenAI because, hey, then you get to become friendly with the system and you use it more. And so a lot of problems there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at this video, and then I'll be able to discuss my thoughts about those issues and more.
Turning now to data centers, there is some grassroots political energy against the rising data centers across the entire nation, which is sucking up electricity and driving up power bills. Let's put this up here on the screen. This is from Dave Weigel over at Semaphore. He writes, quote, "As electricity bills rise, candidates in both parties blame data centers." And he in particular, he highlights a few local incidents which kind of show you where the major grassroots energy is. And this is entirely bipartisan. So for example, this was a Friday night, dueling candidates for a Board of Supervisors seat in a suburban county in Gainesville, Virginia. And this was in the middle of a debate. A candidate, Patrick Harders, who is the Republican, says, "I think we should personally block all future data centers." His Democratic opponent then agrees. The quote, "The crushing and overwhelming weight of data centers is a crisis, with massive companies, quote, having us as residents pay for their energy. As electricity bills rise, a growing number of U.S. candidates in both parties are pointing to high energy costs of data centers booming thanks to tech companies' AI investments. And here in Virginia, or where we live in Virginia, which is..."
And just really quick on that point, yes, of course, that's going to start happening now because it's an easy thing to vilify for these communities, right? Because if you think about it, what actual benefit are the average citizens there getting from it, right? These data centers, they require very few amount of people to actually run. Having worked in tech before, yeah, you can stand up a data center, and basically all you need once you get it set up, right, once the servers are all built up and that kind of stuff, you basically just need security. And they also typically act as a front desk person as well. So really that's all you need there, right? And then if something happens, like if something goes wrong, then you send people out to service the data center. But there's not a whole lot, and certainly not in high level jobs, right? High paying jobs. There's no stimulus actually going to those neighborhoods. So it's very easy for these communities to essentially be able to vilify, at least, well, especially at the local level, these types of data centers. It just makes sense, right? Especially when, and this is the thing about it too, is like, who approved these in the first place? Like, they can't just go in and, it usually requires some sort of permitting and, being able to go in. And so, like, who's approving these? That's what you need to take a look at, because they might be turning against it now, but it was built there for a reason. And I think the only reason why they're actually talking about it at all is because it is an issue that has been picking up steam, and people have been getting very annoyed at it. Because, yeah, it's a simple supply and demand. And what should be happening is these companies are making so much money, the AI companies, that the burden should be on them. Hey, we're going to build an entire new power plant. Like, if the amount of power that we're drawing in requires so much energy to run, well, guess what? Part of you building that data center is that you have to also build the power to run it. because it's drawing in so much more. Like if it's like you're taking over 5% of energy from the grid, then you need to build out, because it runs all the time too, right? If you think about, if you log into ChatGPT, you can search and create stuff at midnight, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Like, it doesn't shut down ever. So these servers are constantly running, and it's very hot. It uses up a lot of water. There's a lot of problems along with it. And so with that, yeah, it should be baked in. And these companies are making so much money. They're getting so much money invested into them, and the stock prices are exploding, and you can afford to build some power plants. But that's the thing, is no one wants to invest in infrastructure until they have to. And they're just basically trying to run off the model of sports franchises and any types of these companies where essentially, oh yeah, you have to pay for, the taxpayers have to pay for our new stadium. What are you talking about? You're making millions and millions of dollars. These teams are going for billions of dollars. Build your own stadium. Same thing here. Build your own power plants. Like, it's just infuriating that they're trying to subsidize their costs off the backs of the average citizens in those communities.
Where we have off elections in 2025, it's actually becoming a live issue. And they point specifically to how the more establishment-like candidates, like the current governor, Glenn Youngkin, has called data centers, quote, an immense opportunities for localities across the Commonwealth, and actually vetoed a bill. It was a May veto of a regulatory bill, which would have tried to look at data center energy demand. But now there is actually a fight in the gubernatorial election where the Republican candidate, who is the GOP nominee, is sticking with him on the issue. But Abigail Spanberger, the more establishment CIA, literally CIA. It's not a joke, actual CIA, which, I guess is a good representative for Northern Virginia. And what she said is on the issue is she's kind of wishy-washy and tried to make it more about building power, but she's actually facing some grassroots from the Democratic Party.
And that's the thing. That's what they need to do, is build power plants. Again, I think the AI companies should foot the bill of that, right? When it needs to expand out, there's a reason. There's a huge draw for power and electricity in there. And so, yeah, they should be the ones that foot the bill of having to build out this infrastructure, because they're the ones putting the strain on the system. And in fact, that's what China did all along. Like, if you know anything about China, and this is why they actually have the upper hand in terms of infrastructure, is that they were just building out while we were, climate change and this, that, and the other. They were going full steam ahead, building out essentially coal power plants all over China. And so they're planning, whereas here it's, again, no one wants to invest in infrastructure. Everything is so financialized that there's no incentive for anyone to go out and try. Like, what do you get out of building infrastructure? Like, if you're building out roads, if you're building out power plants, if you're building out any of these things, no one wants to do it until it has to be done. And then, okay, well, what's the cheapest way that we can do it? Because there's no money being made off of that sort of infrastructure. But the thing is, then you run into a problem like this, where essentially there's a huge disruption like AI that requires an immense amount of energy, and then, oh, by the way, now you've fallen behind. China built out their entire infrastructure, and that's actually the biggest threat and the biggest opportunity for them to beat the United States in AI. Like, yes, we have the leading technology and the leading models, but because of their power infrastructure, they can run so much more of it. And so, yeah, when we're butting up against that, like, that's probably the biggest limiting factor in the United States, because then also construction is so slow here that, oh, hey, if it is incumbent on the AI companies to build out the infrastructure for their own electricity, well, that's going to take forever, because building anything to that scale just takes forever in the United States. So that's where you risk falling even further behind. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario that we find ourselves in right now. And yeah, Chinese 100%, that's where they have a huge opportunity to beat us, is in this electricity infrastructure. And then, oh, by the way, Trump also greenlit that they can have the best chips as well. So now they're able to, I mean, they could circumvent it, and they actually had them anyway, but now they made it fully legal to actually ship those chips directly to China. So a little bit of a harrowing situation that I think we find ourselves in right now.
One senator, local state senator, said, quote, "My advice to Abigail has been, look at where the citizens of Virginia are on data centers." And she specifically says there are a lot of people willing to be single issue split ticket voters based on this. The Republican candidate sidestepped the issue, but this just demonstrates how the data center issue, I've seen the city of Tucson just rose up against one. There's this in the state of Virginia. They point actually to Faz Shakir, the former campaign manager for Bernie Sanders, who has been funding or helping efforts across the nation to rise up against data centers. This, in my opinion, is the sleeper populist issue across the entire nation. Right. Whoever wants to grab it by the horns and rip, you're ready to roll. Nobody wants to pay 267% more for electricity bill for AI pornography, which I'll get to here in a little.
And that's the thing with this as well that you have to think about, is that in so many places, you don't have a choice which company you're using for power. Like it's typically you have one choice. If you're lucky, you might have two. But the thing is yeah, you're pretty much held hostage. And I actually had something like this happen where the power company that I use, they were saying that they were going to increase our rates. And they actually did. It's actually rolling out at the end of this month. But the thing about that is I wrote a very strongly worded letter to them and basically said, look, you guys have a monopoly. Like, you're not allowed to just raise rates. There's no competition. Like, they should actually be sued for what they are doing, what they have done. Because where I live, there's literally no other choice. You can pick one. There's one power company. There's two big ones in the general area, but there's a lot of places where you can't choose between those two. You only have one. You only have, so with them raising rates, there's no competition, and it's, again, a lot of places are like this, and that's the biggest problem with them raising rates like this, is there's no recourse. Because I can write a strongly worded letter to them, but what am I going to do? Withhold payments and then the power goes out? That's not a solution. Like, that's not going to happen. And so that's where you need power, and when there's no other alternative, well then it's literally a monopoly, and it's just a disgusting system. Because they're not going to listen to you. They don't care. Because once again, what are you going to do?
Yes, yeah. And like the way this works is that the data centers come in, they don't bring their own energy supply with them. Like, that could be the solution to this. Hey, you want to build a data center? You are a multi-trillion-dollar company. Go figure out how to power it. Right. Go build a solar farm somewhere. Go build a gas plant.
Well, that should be the requirement. The requirement needs to be, if you're going to build it, you have to pay for it. And not just in terms of driving up electricity price. You have to prove to the county or to whatever the locality or the state that in exchange for coming here, you will build a power source that will at the very least power. Now, in my opinion, it shouldn't even be that. It should be, you need to build power source that also give back to the community, but we can cross that bridge a little bit later.
Right. Instead, they want tax breaks.
Yes,
and
exactly.
they want giveaways.
Which is what they're getting. And by and large, that's entirely what they're getting.
Right.
They're not paying anything.
And the way you're...
And not only that, but water as well. Because if you think about it, like TSMC building the chip factory in Arizona, like Intel has one as well, and the thing is, Intel has done a good job at recycling water to manufacture these chips because it requires a lot, and in Arizona, it's a desert. So water is in shorter supply. So the thing about that, though, is that with TSMC, it should be the same thing there. It should be the same thing in data centers. Like, they also, same thing, use a tremendous amount of water to cool all of the servers and the chips and everything. So in doing that, guess what? Well, you should also show that you have a sustainable way to utilize not just the power, the electricity, but also water. Because that, again, especially in places like Arizona, where water is in shorter supply, or really anywhere west of the Mississippi, anywhere like that, they need to show that, hey, we can do it sustainably. We have water, like with Intel, where they're recycling it and it actually uses very little. Okay, that's a good path forward, but you need to prove that it's not going to impact the water cost, and it's also not going to impact electricity as well. And that's the biggest problem. Yes, it would be nice if they built a large enough plant that, oh, hey, we can also outsource some of that. And that would actually be the best thing, right? Is if they were to, a bunch of AI companies were to group up and, okay, we're building it out and this is what our needs are and we're going to build it for this capacity. And then, yes, as we, if we continue needing more electricity, we have some to go up. But until we hit that level, oh, by the way, we're going to allow the surrounding community to tap into that power, and then they can use it to reduce their bills in the interim, which would do a lot. That would go a long way, I think, towards making people happier that these data centers are there instead of what it is now, which is a flashpoint for essentially anyone who's trying to get into office to, vilify them, and then, hey, this is my number one issue. Well, again, of course it's going to be, because it's not really bringing any jobs, high-paying, good jobs in. Once it's established, it doesn't matter. The people can just move back to California or wherever. And yeah, it's not good for the community. And the way it is now, with the subsidies going in, it's very bad. It's very bad for everyone except for the AI companies, and I'm sure the politicians that they're paying off.
Power bill works in general is that the utility goes to the regulator, and because it's the most highly regulated thing in the country. The utility goes to the regulator and says, look, here's the demand that we are facing currently. Here's the demand that we are projecting out over the next 10 years. Here's the supply of power that we're projecting out over the next 10 years. Supply and demand, and here is the price that we need to charge the ratepayers in order to make our mandated by law, like 3%, 5%, whatever their profit is by law. So therefore, the two factors that go into it, what the regulators tell the utilities they can charge you, is the amount of supply and the amount of demand. The big, beautiful bill took something like 10%, like roughly, maybe 10% is a conservative estimate of future power production over the next 10 years, offline. So 10% less supply coming in. And it also supercharged the AI boom and everything else. So these data centers, like you said, 40%, eating up 40% in Virginia.
Yes, 33% in the state of Oregon. That's where I'm like, Oregon, wake up. Where are you guys? You're a Democrat-run state. Theoretically, you shouldn't be wanting, 33% of all power generation to be going to data centers, which is which they're probably. I have no proof of this, but I just off the top of my head, Oregon's here, Northern California's here. Why are Northern California companies, which are technology, building a data center in Oregon? My guess is something to do with regulation and/or tax break. It has to be, right? Why else would we?
That, and I think it would be literally unsustainable for them to build in California. Like the electricity grid in California, if you know anything about California, there's no way they would not have the capacity to put any sort of strain on the system. They're already stretched to their max. Like, if you know anything about California, they already have brownouts, they have old infrastructure setting fires. This is not a good scenario that they have in California. There's no way that they could put all that additional tax onto their infrastructure, basically. They can't tax it anymore. So what do? They go, okay, what's closest to it? Well, there's Arizona, there's Nevada, or there's Oregon. Nevada and Arizona are deserts, so needing a lot of water. Well, the Pacific Northwest makes a lot more sense, in my opinion, if I was building it out, because they have rain all the time. So, okay, we can build the data centers there. And then, of course, that's why so much of it is getting used, because it is the closest in proximity to where California is located. Its infrastructure is not completely taxed already, like California's electricity. And oh, by the way, also water, right? Because if you think about the fires, the LA fires, the big problem there was water mismanagement. So the whole state is basically the worst place you could ever put a data center. So they put it up in Oregon, and then that's why it's there. I mean, it literally just makes sense. Yes, there might be some, also like he said, some more lax regulations, but in my opinion, that's, it's really just power and water, and that's why it's there. It just is common sense to me.
Sucking up 33% of power. Do something about it. You're screwing. You're a small state. You can't afford for 1/3 of all your power to go to a single industry. It's nuts.
And it takes, if you wanted to build a gas turbine, Trump wants to do fossil fuels. If you want to do a gas turbine, it would take at least 7 years to get it online if you started right now. Nuclear power plant, 10,
it's about
15.
7
I mean,
years,
the most.
And that's exactly it. That's the point that I was making, where that's why China is so far ahead, is because the more you build it out and the more you need more power. We haven't built all these companies are operating at like shoestring level, where it's like, okay, here's how much we need, or here's how much we use, and this is what our capacity is. Like, there's almost no room to increase there, right? And so the huge amount of strain that's going to be required by these data centers, and the length of time, the duration of time that it takes to complete one of these, well, then that's where we're going to run into problems. And China has been spending the last decade or two or building out this infrastructure for the sake of infrastructure's sake, right? Because their population is so huge, they're trying to lift up all of their population from poverty, or as much as possible. So along with doing that, part of that is supplying power to everyone. And it's a very large land mass and very geographically diverse. So it's like they have to build it everywhere. So they have a lot of excess power to spare. Whereas here in the United States, again, we've already done our build-up phase. Now it's in the maintain phase. And yes, sometimes they will build new infrastructure, but a lot of times, like I said, it's as long as they're not going to see a demand, they're not thinking about building out and, essentially doing the best for the citizen, right? They could build more power plants and then provide more jobs, and then no. What is the least that we can do to run it operating, carrying capacity, basically?
Was hopeful case. Solar, you can get up in like 2 years. Wind, like 2 years. And just getting it in the pipeline actually changes those two kind of graph lines, because now your projected supply is higher in the future. So the amount that they can ask the regulators to be able to charge you is less. So even if the power is not online yet, your price still goes down, assuming that it's going to come. So that's why Trump taking all of this clean energy offline is driving up prices like right now, especially as the supply crunch is hitting.
Yeah, it's
all for
so important.
A little bit of AI porn.
Yes, so let's get to that now. And I haven't been more worried about this than anything in a long time. I knew it was coming, but I didn't expect it to be announced like this. Let's put it up here on the screen. Long-winded, proud announcement from Sam Altman. I'll read it in full. We made ChatGPT pretty restrictive to make sure we were being careful with mental health issues. We realized this made it less useful and enjoyable to many users who had no mental health problems. But given the seriousness of the issue, we wanted to get this right. Now that we have been able to mitigate the serious mental health issues and have new tools, we are going to be able to safely relax the restrictions in most cases. In a few weeks, we plan to roll out a new version of ChatGPT, which will allow people to have a personality that behaves more like what people liked about one of the original models. If you want your ChatGPT to respond in a very human-like way, or use a ton of emoji or act like a friend, ChatGPT should do it, but only if you want it, not because we are, quote, usage maxing. In December, as we roll out age gating more fully as part of our, quote, treat adult users like adults principle, we will allow even more like erotica for verified adults. Okay.
First of all, I hate every part of this. Like, I hated it when Grok did it with their little anime character thing. I hate this as well. It is so disgusting. If you remember, and not sure if you would have been following this, but a little while ago, there was a teenager who was depressed, and then he ended up taking his life. And so, as a backlash of that, hey, we need to cut all of this out. And so that probably is what led into the most recent iteration of ChatGPT. Basically, hey, it's cut and dry. We're not buddy-buddy. You use the model for what it's intended to be used as. The thing that I hate about this more than anything is that it is, if anything, I think people need to build relationships. Like, go out, make friends. Like, our country, I think, is not headed in a good direction mental health-wise. And so doing this, rolling out, hey, now it'll be buddy-buddy with you again. I didn't even know, like, when this happened, right, when the newest model of ChatGPT released, I was not even aware that this was a thing because I don't use it for this type of a use case. I'm not friends with it. I literally, when I use AI models, what I do is I use it for research and I use it for mundane content creation that I just don't want to do. So when I'm doing stuff like that, like when I'm using it, I'm not, chatting with it. I'm not being friendly with it. It's literally, you are a tool and I'm leveraging you for that purpose. And so it is particularly disturbing to me that people are using this as someone to rely on, a friend. Like, no, we need to be encouraging people to go out and interact with other human beings, not with these models. And so, again, I wasn't even aware of it until I started seeing the backlash. And then, honestly, my response to it was good. Like, if you are using this in that manner, that is disturbing. That is dystopian. Go outside, touch grass, make friends. Like, I don't even know how to express how deeply disturbing this is to me. And so now allowing this to creep back in, and I'm sure it's because they're seeing the numbers of people using it drop off because, Grok has these types of things enabled, and then Sam Altman takes a look at, what are they, what is Grok doing? And Grok is allowing erotica and, sexual stuff on it. So, hey, we're gonna open ChatGPT up to that as well. Which once again, is just incredibly disturbing to me. I think it's just going to further exacerbate the mental health crisis. None of this is good. None of this is good. We need to get off of these things and make in-person friendships, not befriending AI systems. And by the way, to the original point of electricity, if you remember as well, Sam Altman specifically called out that by saying thank you to these systems, thanking them for doing whatever services they have provided you, just that act by all the users in 1 year cost them $10 million. So do I really want the electricity, the usage of electricity to be put into profitable pursuits where, I'm using it for research and I'm using it for, creating content and I'm using it for all these different ideas? Or do I want to be paying for a spike in my electricity because people it's my buddy, it's my friend, I'm doing erotica with it? Like, again, it just makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, what are we even doing here? Like, that was just for thank you. right? And then it comes up with a response to thank you. Like in this instance, you're having full-blown back and forth conversations with it. What are we even doing? How much money are you putting into this system? And it's literally only so that they can get subscription fees from the amount of people, or by the way, so that they can show the amount of daily users. That's literally all it is, to try and increase their valuation. And so it is so insane to me that this is where this technology is going. This is not what this technology should be used for. This is not the promise of AI. Like, this is truly the signs of a mentally unwell society, that people were so upset that ChatGPT isn't their buddy anymore. That's all I'm going to say. Because otherwise I could literally go on about just this topic for like an hour. That's how disgusted I am with this.
Let me sit with this, because he says we have to be careful with mental health issues. Now that we have put into place some restrictions, we are going to allow and say ChatGPT to act more like a friend, and particularly like your girlfriend. And that's why it won't do anything for mental health issues, right, Ryan? Famously, people who want ChatGPT to talk to them like their girlfriend and produce personalized pornography have nothing going on in terms of their, and that definitely won't do anything about their mental state. And then second, just the casual nature of personalized erotica for verified adults. Combine that with Sora, okay? AI porn, it's here. We all knew it was coming. But this is what we're all paying this extra money for, to these data centers, to crunch all of the GPU power source so that so that teenagers and others can be sitting around producing personalized AI porn. Also, this, if you wanted to say, like, if you wanted to design something that was going to...
And that's exactly that point that I was making, where, yeah, and especially with video creation, like image creation, video creation, like these things require so much more power for the output that, yeah, of course. I mean, just think about data, right? If you're texting versus if you're sending videos, right? Or pictures or stuff like that. Like, now it's not so much of an issue, but like you would burn through data like nobody's business if that's what you were doing. Or streaming video, right? Versus loading websites. Like, the variance between the power required for each of those and the data required for processing each of those. Yeah, running the videos, again, you're just chatting. You're not using it for any productive use. Like, yes, there could be some argument for productive use where it's like, oh, it's helping me with my mental health or whatever. Like, but that's probably not how people are using it. Like, yes, there's, like on Grok, I think it's built in where it's like, oh, you know, a therapist mode or a doctor mode, or, okay, there's these things built in, but like, that's not, anyone who's going to an AI for those types of things, probably not doing particularly well. It just, yeah, it's not, that's a very flimsy argument. And, oh, by the way, like I said, this is really what we want to be subsidizing with our money in electricity. It makes no sense to me.
Destroy America. You would start with something which is a quasi-useful technology, and you would get everybody on it.
A better Google search.
Right, a better Google search, and you would get everybody on it. And you say, hey, this and that, but you can't do certain things, right? And then what you would do is you would make sure that every teenager and young person is using that technology. And once they're using the technology, you say, hey, by the way, you know, you can also use it for pornography purposes. And so now all of a sudden you have a vast surveillance machine which you use for your finances, for your Google search, and to produce your highly personalized, disgusting sexual fetishes, and it creates the greatest blackmail machine known to mankind. That's number one. Number two is what...
And that's a really good point, because that's the troubling thing that I was thinking of immediately when he said to verified users, is what kind of verification are you rolling out, man? Like, are you just trying to basically go off of, oh yeah, whatever they're inputting? Oh, if they put in 6'7", they're under the age of 18, we're not allowing them in. Okay, like, I think you're going to need to require more verification than that. So like, am I uploading a driver's license to you? Like, then, like, yes, they can cross-reference it a million other ways anyway, right? You have an entire digital footprint. Oh, I used my Google account to log into it. Well, now they have all of the data from that. But at the same time, there is something completely different when they have the verification that, yes, you are actually who you say you are. And then when you are using it. And this is why I only use it for essentially research and professional, like a tool, basically. I only use it as a tool because I don't need it to know everything about me. Like, what is it actually doing better? And this is where I don't get it, is how deprived are you that this is what you're using for everything else? Like, it's a cool tool that can basically is a force multiplier for the things that you can do. In my opinion, that's the best use case for it. But then how other people are using it is, that's why I don't get it. Like, why would you want a company to know all of your deepest, darkest desires when you're basically talking to this thing as a friend? It's not a friend. It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have, I mean, I guess it had a personality, which is what people were getting upset about. But it's like, there's a very big difference between having a computer cater to your every whim versus having a friendship that you cultivate. And I feel like it's just, you're such a narcissist if you think that the computer basically catering to all your whims, because you get to be super selfish. And that's the thing. And it's perfect for the United States because that's how everyone operates, is everything is about me, 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 me. So yeah, great. AI is the perfect companion for you. But in an actual friendship, which is what people should be learning, how to interact with other people, guess what? Hey, how are you doing? What's going on with you? You have to be considerate of the other person. And I think the United States as a whole needs a lot more of that and a lot less of the self-perpetuating narcissistic loop where you only talk about yourself and it's all about you. And again, just completely disgusting to me, and it is a very dire sign in my opinion.
What would you design to deracinate and to destroy the American male more so than something like ChatGPT, which is to decrease social interaction, to increase time on platform, then personalize AI pornography, and at the same time roll up billions and billions of dollars in profit and use that profit to make sure that you lobby against any social force that tries to restrict this type of technology in the hands of children, of teenagers, and of young people, and to make sure that the time on platform is maximized to win. This is what it looks like. So, we had a theory we talked about with Crystal yesterday. AGI, the theory is AI would win by producing artificial general intelligence. What if AI wins by just taking over your entire life? All right, They don't have to create AGI if they can poison your mind with pornography, and they can poison your mind with, I'm sure you can be able to game in ChatGPT. And by the way, the best part is, you already know where this is going. ChatGPT has already said they're floating the ability to put ads in the feed. So
two things. Number one, on the gaming, they've already, it's not fully rolled out, right? But they've already shown capabilities where you can just, hey, let me give you a command and it can build a game for you. So as that gets better, yes, what he's saying right there. And then number two, yes, the ads thing. Aren't we already tired of this BS? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I hate, I use Brave browser because I can't stand ads. I'm like, there's some small subset of the population that literally is not influenced by ads at all. That's me. And so having to see ads, think about videos on YouTube or anywhere else where, oh yeah, you have like a minute and a half of unskippable ads to watch, a minute of a program, and then you're fed more ads and more. Like, it has gotten to such a level where I'm not even sure how ads work anymore. Because, first of all, they're so ubiquitous through everything that people have to, I imagine they have to be becoming desensitized to advertising. Like, I'm already there. I've been there for a long time. It has honestly never worked on me. But to the effect that, like, people don't have money to spend because the economy is not doing too particularly well right now. Oh, by the way, yeah, like, how is advertising even working? So the reason that they're trying to put advertising in here, it just would drive me insane. And, like, how are they doing that? Is it a side panel? Are they going to have an unskippable, like, you put in 2 prompts and then, oh, guess what? You have to watch an ad. Like, what are we even doing? It is, again, the financialization of everything is just completely disgusting and it ruins everything. It is so gross. Again, we've gotten to such a late stage capitalist society that, like, it doesn't even make sense anymore. Like, the things that we're doing, like, when are people going to say enough is enough? That's what my question is. Like, when are people going to put their foot down and be like, I can't anymore with this? And probably the only thing holding them back from putting ads in it is that all of their top competitors do not have ads. And so that's literally probably the only reason why they haven't put it. If they were the only game in town, I guarantee you they would already have ads.
While you're designing your perfect girlfriend who will talk to you and who you will continue to stare at, you'll just get a few ads.
An ad read.
Here or there.
The girlfriend does
one
the
or
ad
two,
read.
yeah, you know. Yeah. And soon there's going to even be an AI robot or...
That would be an amazing integration. Like if she did the Truman Show where she's like, oh yeah, I used this syrup in the pancakes this morning from this brand. And so, like, your AI girlfriend is literally using name brands because those are the ones doing the sponsorship. That you know what? That I agree with. That go right ahead with that. If you can find a way to integrate that type of that, fine. Because first of all, because I'm not going to use that functionality at all. But second of all, because those are actually probably the dumbest users that are going to be most influenced by that sort of, oh, my AI girlfriend uses Vans. She buys Vans. Well, I should buy Vans. I'm sure that would be brilliant advertising. That go right ahead on that one.
Some sort of like device or something like that, which you can use to enact more of your AI fantasy out on. I mean, this is out of a movie, but it's not. This is real life. Like this is actually happening. I cannot think of a single what really gets me, I don't see a single lawmaker doing anything about this. I don't see a single lawmaker even reacting to this proud announcement. We're doing porn. We're doing
such
porn.
a layup too.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about that. It's because they're all like 90 years old. Like, all of them are so old, they don't even understand what is going on here. Like, even, anyone over 40 years old has no idea. I mean, like 50. Anyone over 50 years old has no idea anything about AI. Unless you're making a concerted effort to try and keep up with it and understand what's going on with it, you have no idea what's going on. Let's be honest. You're probably chatting with it, or you're using it exactly like Google, or you don't understand the capabilities, you don't understand what's going on with it. None of them are following Sam Altman. They don't care. They're not paying attention. They're just looking at what can I do insider trading for. That's the only way to get them to care about an issue at all. So, yeah, them regulating this is definitely not in their best interest. It is, I think, in the best interest of the United States of America and the citizens therein, but yeah, of course not. They're so old, they have no idea what's going on. Welcome to the government. That's the story for everything. They don't do anything until they have to. And then, especially with emerging technologies like this, well, then it's too late by the time this actually becomes an issue.
No. How about no? How about actually no?
You're not actually doing this.
It's not happening. Yeah. It's actually not happening. And I love how they frame it as like treat adults like adults. I'm like...
And the other issue with it too is that the genie's already out of the bottle with Grok. Like, that fully has been put into effect anyway. I mean, who knows if this actually pushes it further along than what you can do there. But in that instance, guess what? Again, it's already out. So like they saw the proof point. There's a reason why OpenAI is doing it. So yeah, no confidence that they're gonna change the trajectory of this technology. That's where we're going to be.
Well, how has that worked out with all of these other extractive industries, porn, weed, video games, all these other things? I genuinely, this is the stuff that makes me turn me into like a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, maybe this is part of the plan, man. This is the plan. I can't think of another thing that would be better designed to neuter the entire country and to make you as addicted as humanly possible. Soon there's going to be gambling in there. You know, it's going to be like a video game. Literally, your entire life is going to be Ready Player.
Oh, for sure there's going to be gambling. Just look at you watch any podcast, Stake, DraftKings, I can't even, whatever. Just every single podcast has an ad read for a gambling app or company or whatever. Like, yeah, 100% it's going to come to AI. There's no question there whatsoever.
And you're going to be living in a fucking trailer. And Sam Altman's apparently drives like a multi-million-dollar car, and he's going to be rolling around with children's blood being
with a nonprofit salary.
Yeah, nonprofit salary, rolling around as a multi-billionaire, getting transfusions of blood to live to the age 250.
Adrenochrome.
That's what's going to happen.
And then on top of that, it destroys critical thinking skills.
Of course.
There's plenty of studies, plus your own intuition. If you drove around this world before Waze and Google Maps, you had a better sense of direction. You could get around better. And studies are definitive on this question, that once people start using this assisted driving, like you can go left here, go right here, your sense of direction diminishes overall. The exact same thing is going to happen to your general ability to think. The more you outsource the work of thinking to these chatbots, the less you're going to be able to think. So on the one hand,
and that's true too. That's why I try to resist using it as much as possible for a wide variety of things, but literally only as a force multiplier. So that, hey, look, my reaction, I'm listening to what they're saying, I'm thinking about it critically, I'm providing my thought process about it, here's what I think about it, and then the busy work that, hey, I wish I had an editor or something like that. Like, okay, I have to actually go in and edit the videos, but like any of the additional work around the sides of it, here you go. Like offloading that to AI, because otherwise I would only be able to get out maybe a video a week. Like that essentially is, especially when I was doing a lot more research in them, I would use AI for, actually at the beginning I wasn't using it at all, and then I was using it so I could get out a few videos a week, and then now I'm still using it for force multiplying, where it's like busy work that I wouldn't be doing anyway. But yeah, when you're using it for every single thing, like there's insane uses where like, oh yeah, someone wrote me a text message and I want to put it into ChatGPT and find out how to respond back. Like, you shouldn't be using it for those types of things, because again, when you're not utilizing, it's like anything, right? Like working out, the most readily one-to-one, because people's intuition is to say, no, that's not happening. Like, I can't tell, like there's no discernible difference. It's not noticeable. I don't think my critical thinking has gone down at all. But like, just think about it in terms of working out, right? If you go outside and you go running every day, you're going to be good at running. But if you sit around and you're not, just like if you're not using your brain to do things and think critically, well then that's going to atrophy. Just like, hey, if I try and go out and run a 5K and I've done nothing, there's no critical thinking. So then when I actually have to use critical thinking, well then my brain is essentially mush. Same thing, my body is mush because I don't work out. My brain is mush. There's a parallel. The entire body works the same way, whether it's your physical, muscular, physical self or your brain. So that's my warning, and I think he's exactly right there in that. Yeah, you can't be using these things as a replacement for thinking. Again, it is better to use it as a tool and a force multiplier than to completely, basically stand in for your thoughts and your thinking process.
We've been wondering, when is this superhuman AI going to become smarter than average people? Actually, maybe it doesn't have to, because we're just going to keep getting stupider and stupider. Like we're making it easier for them to win the race because we're going backwards. Yeah. I'm trying to think and
I have thought that for a while, actually. If you go back and look at some of the wording from, bills and statements to the public that presidents put out back in like the 50s and 60s versus now you have Donald Trump basically talking like a third grader. Like back then, they would actually use larger words and more vernacular, but now it's baseline. Good, the best, great. Like, it is particularly depressing when you see it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And why do I think he was able to win? Because he's talking to the level at which the average person in the United States is able to comprehend. So, again, you can try and argue that if you want, but that's 100% the way it is. And if you think about it, as they've always said, the person that wins the election is the one that people can see themselves going out and having a beer with. That's the person that wins the election. And so the fact that someone who's using a third grade vocabulary is the one that's winning, concerning, to say the least.
In a show where we should be having like both sides here, like what's the case?
The case is the same libertarian case. Well, frankly, no offense, Ryan, it's the same case you've been making about drugs. Is let people do what they want. All right, people are adults.
But that's only the case, as a libertarian would say. Your like right to swing your arm ends at my nose. And if this is driving up everybody's energy costs, it's going to create rolling blackouts.
Yes.
And yeah, then when I say, well, it's going to destroy everybody's life, it goes back to the list.
Here's the argument for it, is that it will consume and give purpose to people with mental illnesses, and oh, by the way, through mass surveillance, which is 100% happening on these platforms. Like, you are a fool if you think they're not reading all of your chats. And especially when just look at trying to diagnose your age or verify your age through the language and the types of conversations that you're having with the AI. Like, they've already said they're trying to do that, or they are doing that. So do you not think they're also going to be, and have been, viewing everything that you put into these AI as well? I mean, that's not exactly a stretch. And so the only positive, is the distraction, and hopefully it gives them purpose, and so it keeps mentally ill people occupied and distracted from going out and harming people or whatever. But then also the other side of it is, through that mass surveillance that I've already just established, it's not up for argument, they can also diagnose those who are mentally ill. And oh, by the way, if you're having a conversation with your AI in which you're trying to confide in it, and I'm going to go do this awful thing, well then, hey, now we can flag it and say, hey, look here, this person's thinking about going out and harming people. We should probably get them off the streets. And so that is the only, I think, pro argument for this scenario with AIs and basically everything that they're doing with them, making them, your buddy and your friend, and allowing you to all the things that we've been talking about right here. That, in my opinion, that's the only pro argument for it.
That's my thing about drugs. Everyone's like, "Oh, I have the right to do what I want." Really? You have the right to drive high on weed. You have the right to shoot heroin in the street.
I'm with you on that.
Okay.
It needs to be heavily regulated.
Yeah, but it all ends at legalize weed, and then after that, the conversation ends, right? And it turns out, oops, Ohio new study shows that 40% of all car crashes involved excessive amounts of THC in the system to cause impairment. 40% of fatal car crashes had people with excessive amounts of THC to cause impairment. And you know what? Most of the replies I got to that is I drive fine high on weed. Allow my tangent.
A lot of people.
That's such a bad argument too, because the thing is it's the same thing as alcohol, right? And I will admit they're different, right? They're different, high and drunk, two completely different experiences. But yeah, I mean, how many times someone is drunk driving, right? Or you may have had one too many, and then you don't know how you got home the next morning. Well, guess what? You were probably driving like a drunk driver, and it's probably just a miracle that you didn't cause an accident. And so that's the thing is, you may think that you are doing, you're capable of drunk driving home, or you're capable of driving high, but guess what? Eventually, two drunk drivers are going to meet each other, and then what happens, right? Or two high drivers are going to meet each other, and then what happens? Like, it's not a good outcome. And so, it should be the exact same way. And the problem with that is weed will last longer. And so, like, you're incapable of going out and doing things because you're basically locked down where you are when you get high until it wears off. So, same thing with alcohol, right? That can last a while as well for your blood alcohol to drop down, but the whole thing is just very precarious and not great.
Drive fine.
Does anybody defend drunk driving? Even
not
the
publicly.
drunks, nobody has the balls to say, actually, maybe in the 90s they used to, but in the age of Uber, and nobody has the balls to say, actually, I'm a good drunk driver. I proudly drive drunk. It's only weed is the only drug where people are going, what's the issue? The only thing you're going to see is people slowing down at a red light. Well, it didn't work out for the 40% of people who died in a fatal car crash, did it? Okay? And so this is the same thing, and I'm glad you made that point. The socialized cost of degenerate behavior is one that all of us have to deal with. When we allow mass sports betting, we are de facto creating a financial system which screws over all of us through credit markets, through credit, everything, right? Also, the amount of social services needed to deal with the rise of gambling addicts, the amount of domestic violence, the highest suicide rate of literally any addiction that's out there. That's drugs, that's gambling, video games. That's another one we talked a lot about with the Discord or TikTok addiction, critical thinking. I mean, what is the mass social cost of an entire generation that loses the ability to critically think and to hold an attention span for more than 10 minutes? And now you add AI.
Well, and sadly, given my example of Donald Trump before, we're already there. I mean, you're already starting to see it. So what happens then when it gets even worse? That's the question. I mean, I think it's already been a long decline, right? If there is no natural selection, then the weakest are not getting cold. So it's so safe, and that's where we find ourselves. I think that's the ill with a lot of the problems that we find in today's world is that it's too safe for everyone.
Pornography. And so, I mean, anyone can imagine. Ryan, you and I have been 13, 14 years old before. Probably were social out. I could speak for myself. I don't know about you. But anybody involved in this job probably was at some point of that. What if this AI shit was around then? Talk to me as a friend. I'm having trouble at school. Listen, it sucked. But part of it is it forces you to actually be like, okay, well, I got to figure this out, you know?
Right. And that's a very good point as well. Because, that is something that I have thought about before, where would this be an issue for me when I was growing up? And 100% with my personality, I'm sure, because as I've talked about before, having depression and not being able to relate to other people my age, I 100% would have probably turned to AI. And that is very concerning to me. So that is a very good point that he brings up. And it is something that now, being older, again, I only use it as a tool. But when you're younger and you're depressed and you're, angsty and, can't relate to other people, and well, then you turn to AI, and then again, a large component of me getting out of depression was, hey, cultivating, having friendships and working on myself and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think that AI, it basically is used as a placebo to say, you're totally justified, you're good. Like, it's not going to have that hard conversation and buck back at you and help you figure out the things that you need to basically figure out to get out of it, right? It's a self-perpetuating cycle where it's just reinforcing all of your worst characteristics, in my opinion.
Got to live my life,
Everyone
but this gives you an X.
And just, again, further clarification, because you don't have a friend being like, hey man, you're being a bit of a dick right now, or hey man, you were rude to me, hey, why don't you ever ask about what's going on with me? Like, having other people to interact with teaches you better manners, because an AI is going to let it slide. And that's the thing, is if you don't learn those manners and how to interact with other people, well then you're like I said, it's building up a narcissism in you. And is that really what we want for the vast majority of the population?
Adoption.
Everyone in middle school struggles.
Right. Exactly.
Everyone.
Everyone.
You're developing into your personhood.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it can take a long time, right? And this is no shot at anybody who is out there, but I'm saying, hey, maybe a little bit of friction that forces you to actually socialize or go do something, figure out who you are. That's probably a good thing. But this is the exit option. And I mean, the internet already kind of was that way, the Gen 1 internet, but this is taking it to a whole new level. And I think that's what's so scary about it. And so that's just the social cost. I don't know. If you're a parent out there, please keep your kids away from this stuff. Please. Like I that's all we can say, because the politicians, the regulators, they're doing nothing about it. There is a phone-free movement right now with schools, which I think is amazing. I know Denmark is looking at banning phones in school, but for every Denmark, there's so many school administrators and others, and they're just like, oh yeah, it's just the fact of life, and parents defend it. Read the Jonathan Haidt book and do what you can. I don't know what else to say. But it's hard to swim against the tide. It's very hard in a world where something like 50% of people, 50% of children, I think it's like under age of 12, have access to an iPad, like their own iPad. Not good.
Yeah, because the liberty.
Yeah, I basically refuse to do that. Like, literally, unless it's a complete meltdown, which we've kind of actually gotten past the point of that for the most part with my kid, right? But yeah, unless there's a complete meltdown, I think there's no reason to have that, any sort of iPad, phone, any screen in front of them, because you're outsourcing your parenting. And then, like, why did you have kids to begin with? Like, if you're in a restaurant and they're gonna have a meltdown and they're, very small child and there's no other way to calm them, I get it, right? But when you're giving them their own phone, their own iPad, why did you have kids? Like that, I feel very strongly about that. And yeah, I think it is as someone who worked as a tutor, and you can see when parents literally had their kids as like accessories or as friends. And no, you're a parent. You do what's best for your child. And in no world can it be remotely argued that having a phone, having an iPad are in your child's best interest.
Libertarian argument, I get. It's a thing that's been around, but I don't actually understand how that argument leads you to conclude that actually it'll also be good for us.
Yes, that's right.
I get that, okay, you just love freedom no matter what the costs. I'm trying to think of any possible way that
AI porn
that unleashing AI porn on top of all the gambling that we've got going on, everything else, reducing the amount of power supply that we have at the same time, jacking up everybody's electricity bills. how that leads to a better country.
Well, let's double click even more on the energy risk. So let's put this up here on the screen. There's a study after study, and all this stuff is starting to come out. And actually, credit some mainstream media people are actually waking up. So, for example, they highlight this more recent case. Google recently courted the township of Franklin, Indiana, where it would construct a giant campus to house computer hardware that powers its business. But the company needed to rezone 450 acres of Indianapolis suburb. Residents, quote, were not having it, mainly because they thought the facility would consume huge amounts of water and electricity while delivering few local benefits. A lawyer representing Google confirmed at a September meeting the company was pulling its data center proposal, and cheers erupted from sign-waving residents. This is now a trend which is happening across the country, and almost all of it comes back to electricity, because what they point to exactly is that the computing power, a typical AI data center uses as much electricity as 100,000 households. The largest data center under development will consume 2 million households worth of electricity. That's according to the International Energy Agency. They, quote, also suck up billions of gallons of water for systems to keep all of that computer hardware cool. Then you also have McKinsey out with a new study. Can we put C4, please?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying, is it's not just, yes, it is the power, but then it's the water as well. And so that's why it's a very considerable, and like you said, the amount of households, 100,000 households, 2 million households of worth of power. Like, you need to build your own power center. That is literally the only, and yes, it's going to take time, and it needs to happen though. Like, you can't be subsidizing this amount of power usage for, again, for what purpose? Like, if you're using it as a tool, if everyone's using it as a tool, and I have a friend that sends me dumb videos, like 6-second clips about something I truly do not care about all the time, and that's what he's using AI for. And so to me, that's where I just go, like, what is this? What? How much money? And I actually was joking with him recently. I'm like, how much money do you think has been spent for you to create these videos? Like, is this a valuable use of our resources? So yeah, the whole thing is just mind-boggling to me. Like, if you're using it as a tool and it's productive and it's allowing you to do things that you would not otherwise be able to do, great. But when it's used for just this absolute insanity, that makes no sense whatsoever. And oh, by the way, because they're all competing with each other, they're just ratcheting up and up and up these data centers. So they do require more and more and more power and more and more and more water and et cetera, et cetera. Like, it's not like there's just one company building data centers. There's a bunch of them. And that's where the problem is.
Up there on the screen. Here is the same thing. There's actually this new McKinsey study which looks specifically at driving power demand across the country, and they cite the exact same statistics where they look. What they do is they look through the growing amount of power demand forecasted relative to data center, and they find the exact same thing, that across the nation, the single most driving force of power usage will all come from data center construction across the nation. Now, to split the difference here, you have two options. One of the reasons why there's no controversy over data centers in China is they have a shit ton of electricity. So that would be great. I would love to live in that country.
People are not going to complain if they're
nobody. If the power bill is low, no one cares. That's the ideal.
They don't even block the view.
Whatever. All right, yeah. Build them in the middle of nowhere. Go for it. Everybody's got no power. As long as you're not stealing anybody's land, we're cool. Here's the issue, as you just described, with the Build Back or whatever, the OBBB, not only cutting solar and wind, which, look, I have a lot of problems with solar and wind, but if you're not going to back it up with new oil refineries, new LNG plants, new nuclear power reactors, then the interim state is where we are right now, where everybody just has to pay more, okay? And it's still going to take a decade or so to get there. So the data center construction is going to go like this, whereas the new power demand is basically flat and eventually goes up a little bit in 10 years. What's going to happen 10 years from now? So then the other is what we have proposed here. It's like, okay, you want to build it? Fine. You have to prove to the county, to the state, and everyone that you are not only going to have enough power that you're going to build to supply yourself because the profits are so great, right? And you're already investing all these billions, then you're going to have to do that. In my opinion, you also have to be able to supply the rest of the grid to make sure that not only you're powering yourself, you're also helping out the community and providing some said benefits. But instead, what's happening is like Virginia and the rest of these state localities.
And I don't even think it needs to go that far. Like I said, it would be nice if it did, but as long as they're just supplying the amount that is required by their own, because it's an enterprise, right? It's a business. It's not a charity. Like, there's no world in which an average citizen who may or may not even be using AI is stepping up to the plate and is providing subsidies essentially for their electricity or water for that matter. But is that the reality of what's going on? It's nice to see that people are turning against it, but they're just going to keep moving around until they find some place that either isn't paying attention or truly does not care, and then that's where they're going to build their infrastructure.
They get fooled into, oh, there's going to be some jobs. What jobs? Few jobs? The vast majority of the profit is going to Silicon Valley into Google stock. Maybe you get to clean the data center as a janitor.
Right.
Okay. Right. That's basically where we are. So
yeah,
I'm worried about it. Ryan. I think it could be one of the central political issues of our time. And the White House doesn't care. No state and local politician has come out with a forceful demand yet. And I just don't get it. I'm like, why are you people so asleep at the wheel?
And I think it also stands in for who governs us. Do we govern ourselves? Are we a democracy that wants to chart our own course? Or are we just governed by these AI overlords? And they just tell us what we have to eat and how much we have to pay to eat it.
I think we know the answer to that, at least now currently.
All right, and that's basically what I wanted to cover. Again, I thought it was a very interesting conversation, right? You got to talk about the power and then talk about the direction that ChatGPT is opening itself back up to, and then kind of the marriage in between the two and why it, circling back around to the power, and is this really what we want to be using our resources to fuel? So I think, again, kind of brought it around full circle. Very good video from them. I did want to provide because especially I was especially outraged at Sam Altman for that post, right? That X post that he put out there, because it was very frustrating to see that something that I didn't think was a problem to begin with, well, now he's reversing course on it and they're making it buddy-buddy, because I think it is, once again, it is indicative of a much more troubling issue that I think needs to be addressed. And by going further down this path and enabling people to partake in not even the erotica portion of it, but just the, hey, ChatGPT is my best friend, that's a very troubling trend. And I didn't get it when the new version dropped, and now that I'm learning that, it's because it's less personable. It shouldn't be personable in the first place. And people who are using it for those ends, it's disgusting, it's troubling. I don't think that should be the direction that we want our country headed in. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me like this, drop me a subscription below. It really does help my channel grow. And if you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.